Here's a situation. You manually enter time in and out onto a spreadsheet to calculate hours worked. What you need is a quick way to do that without having to type in the colon, a space after the minutes, the AM or PM, or having to do the math on a time basis. So let's take a look at this example. Here I have my dates entered. I let Excel determine the day of the week. Now you may or you may not need this information, but if you do, let's take a look at this formula real quick. Here I use 3 Ds. That's going to return the 3-letter abbreviation of the day. If I use 4, it'll return the entire day. 2 would return the 2-digit date, and then 1, the 1-digit date. But I want this. And by the way, if I ever needed to use this with month or year, I could do the same thing with M's or Y's. Here I'm going to enter my time in using military format and my time out using military format. Why? Because it's much faster to type 800, which is only 3 keystrokes, versus 8:00 space AM. So I'm going to type this, and I'm going to let Excel turn it into that. These two formulas are the same. This refers to that cell, this refers to that cell. Let's take a look at this. We'll start in the middle. It's saying if C12 is less than 1,000, then use this left function to grab the hours. If it's not, then use this left function to grab the hours. Here it's 800, which is less than 1,000, so it's going to use this first left function and choose 1 digit from the left, which means it's only going to grab the 8. This ampersand is going to attach this colon. This ampersand is going to attach the results of this right function, which is going to grab the 2 digits on the far right, which are always going to be the minutes. Time value is going to turn it into a time value, which means it's going to bring back the appropriate AM or PM. The if error here is to prevent an error if I haven't filled out my time yet, so it will return just a blank. So I can type this formula in and drag it all the way down. Let me show you what I mean. If I haven't typed in my times yet, because these days haven't passed yet, I get blanks, which is really what I want instead of seeing errors, because errors make it look like there's something wrong. I also have if errors here, but returning zeros instead of blanks. This formula, regular hours worked. Now, if I work more than 8, I don't want this to go higher than 8. I want my overtime to be caught in the overtime column. So what I would like to say is if this time out minus time in is greater than 8, but I can't say greater than 8 because that's not how Excel sees time. Excel sees time as a fraction of a 24-hour period. So if I wanted to mean 8 hours, I would have to say 8 divided by 24, or I would have to use the result of that, which is 0.33333. Since 0.33333 is just a number, I don't like using that, and I don't want to have to figure out what it is anyway. If I use my number that I'm interested in divided by 24, like I have up here, then I know I'm dealing with time. So 8 divided by 24 simply represents 8 hours. So this formula is saying time out, if time out minus time in is greater than 8, then just put in 8. If not, then do the math, which is a subtraction, which on this one, it's not greater than 8, so it does a subtraction. The answer is 6 hours. Overtime is very similar. It says look at the regular hours. If it's less than 8, that means there's no overtime, put in a 0. If not, do the math. Time out minus time in, which is going to be greater than 8, so you have to subtract the 8, so the result is just going to be the remainder. Here I worked 11 hours and 22 minutes, so my formula for the regular hours column appropriately pinned it at 8, and the overtime formula appropriately grabbed the overtime hours. Now to make it look like this, the hours in the minutes format, I had to choose custom format here, and I wanted the hours in the bracket with the colon and the 2 M's, but this wasn't available when I first came here. This one was. So I chose this one, I came up into the window, and then I backspaced and got rid of the 2 S's in the colon, hit OK, and it created this one for me, and that's how I got it to look like that. Let me show you what I did here. I used this first formula to determine the day of the week, this formula to turn my military time into AM/PM time, this to calculate the regular hours worked, and this to calculate the overtime hours worked. And that is a way to solve this need.